Nobody was texting war plans, and that's all I have to say about that.
That's all I have to say about that.
Well, then let's see what the guy you accidentally texted war plans had to say about that.
All right, let's get this right up front. Pete Hegseth, Tiny Finger's best buddy and current Secretary of Defense. Well, Pete is an admitted drunk. Ask anyone at Fox who worked with him. He came in every day smelling like a frat house Sunday morning. Pete also kept a woman in a hotel room against her will, paid her off to be silent.
He's drunk at a conservative conference. At 1:30 a.m., he's screaming about how he has freedom of speech and berating a hotel staffer. Then he takes a woman back to his hotel room for what he says is consensual sex. At the moment that that's happening, he is still technically married to his second wife, but that marriage is they're getting divorced because he had a child with someone that works for him.
And then his own mom said this.
Penelope Hegseth wrote, "On behalf of all the women, and I know it's many, you have abused in some way, I say get some help and take an honest look at yourself."
And Pete, he has the uncanny ability to keep stepping in shit, as Jimmy Kimmel will point out in a second. First, though, I'd like to ask you to subscribe to Really American at YouTube. It's free and it's easy, kind of like me in my 20s, so give it a click. Now, as you might remember, Pete Hegseth and Mikey Waltz, the United States National Security Advisor, are two Republicans who've been critical of Hillary Clinton and her servers, especially calling her a criminal. Now, as you may remember, these two humps criticizing Hillary is about as rich as irony can get, and we'll get to that in a second. But first, let's recap. As the U.S. was about to strike the Houthi terrorists in Yemen, Mike Waltz and Hegseth sent out a text to discuss the strike, except Waltz included the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic. But as we're learning now, Pete, it's 5 o'clock somewhere, Hegseth also sent it to his wife, brother-in-law, his uncle. He might have sent it to me. Let me check.
So this is the guy that peddles in garbage.
This is like, and I know Pete can relate to this, this is like getting drunk, driving your car into a lamppost, and blaming the lamppost.
Signal, and how did you learn that a journalist was privy to the targets, the types of weapons used?
I've heard I was characterized. Nobody was texting war plans, and that's all I have to say about that. Thank you.
All right. Well, then let's see what the guy you accidentally texted war plans had to say about that.
I want to start by getting your reaction to what we heard from Secretary Hegseth. They were saying that nobody was texting war plans. Given you were privy to this group chat, is that how you saw it?
No, that's a lie. He was texting war plans.
I don't know why there's any debate about this. I mean, we have the text. He printed them. We've seen them. The White House confirmed that the texts were authentic, and many of them are from Pete Hegseth, the same guy who said this about Hillary Clinton using a private email server.
If there was anyone other than Hillary Clinton, they would be in jail right now.
Correct.
For what has been done. Because the assumption is in the intelligence community, if you are using unclassified means, there is the potential for and likelihood that foreign governments are targeting those accounts and gathering intelligence from them.
Very well said.
All right, now six-pack Pete, he claims there were no war plans in it. But as Tweedledee and Tweedledum sent the text to a journalist, we can now read them. The text began, "Time now, weather's favorable, just confirmed with CENTCOM, we're a go for mission launch." CENTCOM, or Central Command, is the military's combat command for the Middle East. The text continues, 12:15 F-18s launch, first strike package, 13:45 trigger-based F-18s first strike window starts, also strike drones launch. And the message at Pete, 5 o'clock somewhere, sent, it was 30 minutes before the first U.S. warplanes were launched, and 2 hours and 1 minute before the beginning of a period in which a primary target, the Houthi target terrorist, was expected to be hit. According to military experts, if the text had been intercepted by a hostile agent, the Houthis would have had time to prepare for the surprise attack with potentially catastrophic consequences for U.S. pilots. Then the National Security Advisor texted this, "VP, building collapsed. Had multiple positive ID, amazing job." Hegseth then wrote later that day, "CENTCOM was or is on point," before adding, "Great job all, more strikes ongoing for hours tonight." Now, after this text was released, everyone not currently serving under the drunk and the moron said, yeah, those are war plans. And now we're finding out it wasn't just journalists who were included on the text, but 5 o'clock Hegseth sent it to family members like it was a funny story from Uncle Bob's retirement party. And unlike the chat in which the Atlantic was mistakenly included, the newly revealed they weren't war plans text was created by 5 o'clock Pete himself and included his wife and about a dozen other people from his personal and professional circle of bros. Hegseth also used his private phone rather than his government phone to access the Signal chat. But at the White House Easter egg roll, hangover Hegseth, instead of admitting the mistake, attacked the New York Times. Shocker.
You know, what a big surprise that a few leakers get fired and suddenly a bunch of hit pieces come out from the same media that peddled the Russia hoax. Won't give back their Pulitzers. They got Pulitzers for a bunch of lies. Pulitzers for a bunch of lies. And on hoaxes, time and time and time again. And as they peddle those lies, no one ever calls them on it. See, this is what the media does. They take anonymous sources from disgruntled former employees, and then they try to slash and burn people and ruin their reputations. Not going to work with me, because we're changing the Defense Department, putting the Pentagon back in the hands of warfighters, and anonymous smears from disgruntled former employees on old news doesn't matter. So I'm happy to be here at the Easter egg roll with my dad.
One more time, there was no Russian hoax. Trump was elected in 2016 after 17 U.S. intelligence agencies working with allies in Europe discovered the Russians were actively involved in getting Trump elected through various means. And after being elected, Trump was speaking with the Russians in the Oval, with no U.S. journalists there. Trump has borrowed millions from Russian banks, which means Putin. He sent his son to Trump Tower to get information from a Russian on Hillary. Trump called Putin a dozen times after he lost in 2020. And Trump put tariffs on war-torn Ukraine, but the one country he didn't place a tariff on? Yeah, Russia.
Russia, if you're listening.
So two more things. During her tenure as Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton drew controversy by using a private email server rather than the official State Department email account. After a year-long FBI investigation and subsequently an investigation by Republicans, it was determined that Clinton's server did not contain any information marked classified. And finally, as Six-Pack Pete stumbles, he's losing the Pentagon, the men and women whose background is defending the U.S. from Russians, terrorists to meddling drunks. So Man-Titty sent out Tinkerbell here to defend the sexual assaulting drunk over the men and women who have spent their lives really doing the job.
The president stands strongly behind Secretary Hegseth, who is doing a phenomenal job leading the Pentagon. And this is what happens when the entire Pentagon is working against you and working against the monumental change that you are trying to implement. Secretary Hegseth was nominated for this position because he is standing up for the war fighter, the men and women in uniform who are putting their lives on the line to protect our country and our homeland. And unfortunately, there have been people at that building who don't like the change the secretary is trying to bring, so they are leaking and they are lying to the mainstream media. We've seen this game played before. The secretary is doing a tremendous job, and the president stands strongly behind him.
If there was any credibility at all at any time during the Trump shit show, it's long gone. And you can't restore credibility. It's like trying to capture a fart so you can give it back to the person who gave it to you. 5 o'clock Pete is a cautionary tale. Should he be in charge of our nation's defense? No. Should he organize your bachelor party? Now, those would be some war plans.
Terrorizing our communities.
Are your leaders incompetent, unqualified people compromising national security?
Goddamn right.
Yes, yes, yes.
Elon eating the dogs.
Who's benefiting? What billionaire just got richer?
They had what? Bloated and fat and disgusting.
I like that.
We're a nation that speaks English.
Look, if something like that thing start goggling.
I don't want to talk about this stuff.
Am I wrong?
Yes.
Tick-tock.
You're in a lot of trouble, Donnie.
I think he's crazy.
I'm Chip Franklin.